Chapter 5. Captain Zavis paused in the library's arched doorway, the dragons on his robes shifting in the candlelight as he took in the unexpected scene. What had begun as Marcus and Keaton's solitary research had transformed into something far more organized and extensive. The ancient chamber had been divided into clear study groups, each focused on a different aspect of their shared visions. Near the astronomy section, 3 battle brothers hunched over star charts, comparing the blood patterns from their dreams to various stellar phenomena. Their quiet murmuring mixed with the scratch of quills as they noted correlations. By the historical archives, Brother Arcturus led another group poring over accounts of the Revelator fleet's last known communications. Data slates and ancient scrolls covered their table, the mix of ancient and modern technology telling of their thorough approach. In a corner dedicated to xenoarchaeology, Marcus himself worked with 2 others, surrounded by texts about pre-imperial artifacts and long-dead civilizations. Their table bore sketches of the strange symbols that appeared in their shared dreams. Caden sat at the center of it all, his psychic hood humming softly as he coordinated between the groups, drawing connections that only a trained psyker might see. He looked up as Zavis approached, nodding in acknowledgement. "Captain," he said quietly, mindful of the sacred space, "we've made interesting progress. Each group has found fragments, pieces of a larger puzzle. The orange sky, we believe, relates to a specific stellar phenomenon. The Whispers." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "They bear similarities to certain encrypted Imperial transmissions from the Great Crusade era." Zavis moved closer, his augmetic eye whirring as it processed the scattered documentation. "How did you gather so many brothers to this cause?" "They came to us," Marcus answered from his corner, each one drawn by their own visions, each bringing a different perspective, a different piece of the mystery. The captain surveyed the scene again, noting how even now more brothers were entering the library, drawn to this impromptu gathering of minds. Whatever was reaching out to them, its call was growing stronger. Initiate Marxus approached Captain Zavis with barely contained excitement, his young face betraying an eagerness that centuries of service would eventually temper. The stack of parchments and data slates in his arms threatened to spill over as he hurried forward. "Captain, if I may," he began, spreading the documents on a nearby table. The dragons on Zavis's robes seemed to lean forward with interest as he bent to examine them. "We've cross-referenced the stellar anomalies with historical records of similar phenomena. Look here." He pointed to a series of astronomical readings dated from the Great Crusade. "The orange sky in our visions matches exactly with something called the Helios effect, documented by Explorator Fleet Gamma 7 just before they disappeared. And these symbols," he shuffled through to reveal a page of intricate markings. "They appear in both the blood patterns we dream of and in fragments of tech priest transmissions from the same period." Brother Arcturus moved to join them, his steady hand indicating specific passages. "The timing is what caught our attention, sir. The Revelator fleet encountered these same phenomena just before we lost contact. Their final astropathic message mentions skies of burning amber and whispers that speak of humanity's birthright." Marxus nodded enthusiastically. "And sir, there's more. The blood patterns, when we overlay them with current star charts of the Nephilim sector, they form a perfect match with a cluster of systems that weren't there during the Great Crusade. Systems that shouldn't exist according to any official Imperial records." The young initiate's voice dropped lower, though his excitement remained palpable. "Whatever the Revelator fleet found, whatever's calling to us now, it's something that predates even the Emperor's Great Crusade, but speaks in High Gothic and knows our chapter by name." The dragons on Zavis's robes seemed to coil tighter as he absorbed this information, his augmetic eye scanning rapidly over the gathered evidence. Captain Zavis moved methodically across the pages, the dragons on his robes casting shifting shadows over the parchment as he made his corrections. His augmetic eye whirred softly as he adjusted dates and refined astronomical coordinates with the precision expected of an Astartes officer. "Your enthusiasm is commendable, Initiate," he said, finishing the last correction. "But precision in all things. One mistranslated coordinate could send us light years off course." He straightened, turning to Marcus. "Take these to Chief Astrologer Varys. Have him compare these systems against both current charts and historical records. I want to know if these new systems truly appeared from nowhere, or if they were simply hidden from our instruments until now." Marcus gathered the corrected documents carefully. "And the temporal anomalies, Captain. The dates don't align with standard Imperial chronology. Hence the need for verification," Zavis replied. "The warp does strange things to time and space. What appears as centuries to us might be moments elsewhere." The dragons on his robe seemed to twist thoughtfully as he spoke. "Have the astrologers pay particular attention to any gravitational distortions or warp storm activity in the region. If these systems did suddenly appear, they left traces of their arrival." "At once, Captain," Marcus nodded, gathering his research team. "Should we inform the Librarius of our findings as well?" "Not yet," Zavis decided. "Let's verify the astronomical data first. The librarians have enough to consider with these visions without adding unconfirmed stellar phenomena to their burden." As Marcus and his team filed out, Captain Zavis turned back to the remaining researchers, his augmetic eye gleaming in the candlelight. The mystery was deepening, but at least now they had solid data to pursue, assuming the astrologers could confirm their findings. In the hushed atmosphere of the library, Captain Zavis moved methodically between the research groups, the dragons wreathed in clouds on his robes, shifting in the candlelight. His augmetic eye whirred continuously as he reviewed each team's findings, making precise corrections with an experienced hand. At the xenoarchaeology table, he spent considerable time adjusting the translations of ancient symbols. "These markings," he noted, carefully redrawing a particular glyph, "bear stronger resemblance to late Dark Age technology than Xenos script. Note the binary influences in the pattern structure." With the historical research team, he refined their timeline of the Revelator fleet's last known movements. "This engagement," he indicated, striking through a date, "occurred 3 weeks earlier than your sources suggest. I remember the battle records clearly. I reviewed them during my officer training." Among the brothers studying stellar phenomena, he made several crucial corrections to their astronomical calculations. "You've failed to account for warp current drift," he explained, reworking their figures. "Even the slightest miscalculation could render these coordinates useless in real space." The brothers accepted his corrections with quiet gratitude, many taking additional notes on his modifications. Even Brother Arcturus, known for his precise record-keeping, found his work improved by the captain's careful review. Through it all, the whispers in Zavis's mind continued their constant murmur. But here, among the ancient tomes and dedicated research, they seemed almost to make more sense, as if the academic rigor was helping to bring clarity to their mysterious message. Throughout the massive battle barges, the announcement reverberated through every deck and corridor. The transition from warp to real space sent a subtle shudder through the mighty vessels as Geller fields powered down and reality reasserted itself. In the library, Captain Zavis looked up from his corrections, the dragons on his robes seeming to stir at the news. "Finish cataloging what we have," he ordered the research teams. "Copy everything to secure data crystals. I want our findings protected before we make port." Throughout the fleet, activity surged as final preparations began. In the hangar bays, tech priests completed their final rites over the secured aircraft, their binary cant mixing with the hiss of cooling engines. deck crews rushed to ensure all small craft were properly locked down for real space transition. The armory levels bustled with activity as Battle Brothers secured their weapons and armor for planetfall. The sharp clicks of bolt guns being cleaned and checked echoed through the chambers, accompanied by the soft murmur of maintenance prayers. In the ship's core, navigators slumped in their thrones, exhausted from guiding the fleet through the warp, while bridge crews began calculating final approach vectors to Solaris Majoris. The Vox crackled again. All departments report status for real space operation. Prepare for standard orbit insertion. Port authorities have confirmed our arrival clearance. Zavas gathered his robes about him, the dragon patterns writhing as he moved. "Emperor willing," he murmured. 3 days of solid ground will give us the clarity we need. But even as he spoke, the whispers in his mind seemed to grow more insistent, as if proximity to their destination was strengthening their call. The bridge of the Sword of Dawn hummed with activity as the vast vessel approached the port, servitors and crew working at their stations while the lieutenant awaited response. The void between ship and station sparkled with the lights of civilian vessels and system traffic keeping a respectful distance from the Astartes fleet. After a moment of static, the Vox crackled to life. "Sword of Dawn, this is Imperial Port Control. Verification code acknowledged." A pause then. "Our sensors confirm 3 capital ships in your fleet formation. Please transmit additional authorization codes for Emperor's Wrath and the Charging Bull." The lieutenant's fingers moved swiftly across the command throne's interface. "Transmitting fleet codes now, requesting docking berths suitable for Astartes battle barges and support craft." "Codes received and verified," Port Control responded. "Emperor's blessing upon you. You are cleared for approach to docking arrays, Theta 7 through Theta 9. Uploading approach vectors now. Please maintain current velocity and follow guidance markers. The machine god guides your path." Around the bridge, cogitators chimed as they received the port's navigational data. Crew members began making minute adjustments to their course, while servitors droned out readings from dozens of sensors, monitoring their approach. "Acknowledge port control," the lieutenant replied. "Beginning final approach. Emperor protects." The massive battle barges moved with surprising grace for their size, thrusters firing in perfect sequence as they lined up with their assigned docking arrays. In the distance, Solaris Majoris gleamed, its sprawling port facilities a testament to Imperial engineering and might. From his command throne, Captain Zavas paused momentarily, the dragons on his ceremonial robes casting fluid shadows in the bridge's dim lighting. His augmetic eye whirred as he processed the summons. A meeting with the chapter master just before port arrival was unusual. "Acknowledge the request," he commanded, rising from his throne. "Lieutenant, you have the bridge. Complete docking procedures and ensure all departments report in once we're secured." "By your command, Captain," the lieutenant responded crisply. As Zavis moved toward the bridge exit, his robes flowing around him, he turned to the communications officer. "Did the chapter master indicate the nature of this meeting?" "No, sir," the officer replied. "Only that it was urgent." The captain nodded, the dragon patterns on his hood seemed to coil tighter with tension. The timing was peculiar. With mere hours until planetfall, the chapter master typically focused on diplomatic preparations for port arrival. Whatever Volux wanted to discuss, it couldn't wait until they were docked. "Maintain course," he ordered as the bridge doors slid open. "I want hourly updates on our approach status sent to my ocular feed." The dragons on his robes rippled as he strode into the corridor, his mind already racing with possibilities. Between the shared visions, the library discoveries, and now this summons, something larger was clearly unfolding.